that over 4 billion of the 7 billion people on the planet are on the internet. Now that's a whole lot of people. And you might wonder, what do they do online? Well, a lot. A lot happens in the internet at every instantaneous moment. In just 1 second, there are over 80,000 searches on Google. There are over 3 million emails that are sent. Over 80,000 videos are uploaded on YouTube. And over 1,000 people upload a photo on Instagram. So the internet is becoming a crucial part of our day-to-day lives. And not only for the world at large, but even for Kenya. You see, last year in 2019, the Communications Authority of Kenya reported that for the first time in her history, Kenya crossed the 100% mobile penetration mark. That means that today, virtually anybody in Kenya can access a mobile phone and subsequently the internet. It's not like back in the day when only the people in the urban centers were on the internet. Today, even the people in the village, not only the young people, but even the parents, even the grandparents. I'm sure some of you in this room might have received a WhatsApp from your grandma or your granddad about coronavirus, right? So we've come to a stage where we're using the internet a lot, and humanity needs to ask itself, how can we use the internet in the best way, in the right way? Because we never really get to learn this in any school course. Nobody goes to school on, how to use the internet the right way. And today, even young babies, they're getting on the internet. A 2-year-old can easily operate a phone. So in asking these questions, how can we use the internet the right way? We'll try to do that precisely tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Prince Muraguri, and I am an economist. And I love economics because I believe that with economics, we can solve some of the most pertinent questions in humanity, including this one: how can we use the internet the right way? And basically, for those who have not taken economics, don't worry, it's not going to be a boring economics class. It's going to be called Internet-nomics, right? Using economics concepts to try and understand how to use the internet in the best way possible. Sorry. So, here we are, perfect. Before we get to the crazy internet-nomics, let's first try to understand the internet and where it's come from. You see, the internet basically kicked off around the 1990s, so it's existed for about 30 years. And that time, there weren't too many people online. In 1995, less than 1% of the world's population was online. Between 2000 and 2020, that's when it really took off in the last 2 decades. In 2000, only 400 million people were online. In 2004, we crossed the 1 billion mark. Recently, in 2017, is when we crossed the 4 billion mark, where over now 50% of the human population was on the internet. But with every great reward comes great responsibilities. You all know that there are growing concerns of internet addiction, especially among young people, or spending time on the internet on the wrong content. Most of us have been in that stage where we are in bed, scrolling through our phones, and over a long period of time, and we get that feeling at the end that this was not the best way to use my time. So let's try and understand how to use the internet in a good way. Okay, fine. Now I'm getting the hang of it. So let's begin the economics class. If you've ever taken an economics class, you understand that demand and supply are the core backbone of economics. And it's very simple. Think of supply as the side of the market that provides. So if you sell apples, you're a supplier. And the people that consume the apple is the demand, the consumers. Now the internet is not very different. Think of the apples that are exchanged on the internet as content, digital content. So anything that you read or listen to or watch on the internet. The people who supply digital content are the content creators, and the people who consume the digital content are the people who are online. And most of us in this room probably have played the role of supplier or demand in the internet at one point or another. That time when you uploaded something on Facebook, you are a supplier. That time when you tweeted or you uploaded something, you are a supplier. And that time when you are scrolling through other people's content, you are consuming. Using these two economics concepts, we're going to try and figure out how we can use the internet the best way, because basically a supplier asks themselves, how can I supply the things that matter most to my customers at the best possible price? And consumers ask themselves, how can I consume the things that matter to me at the least and most efficient price? So let's begin. Okay, we begin with the demand side. So the side that's consuming, that time when you're going through other people's feed. Economics always tries to answer the question, how can we use our resources to fulfill our wants? But human beings have unlimited wants. We want it all. We want to have the best phone, we want to have the best car, we want to have the best girlfriend, we want to have the best boyfriend, and we can't have it all. We have limited resources. We are constrained either by time or by money or by location. We simply can't have it all. And the internet is not very different. The internet has unlimited content. I mean, every time you just switch on the internet on your phone, there's a million things fighting for your attention. Hey, retweet me. Hey, watch me. Hey, read me. But we are limited by time. We don't have all the time in the world. I mean, in just 1 minute, over 400 hours of video are uploaded on YouTube in just a minute. So no matter how much you love videos, no matter how crazy you love videos, you just can't consume it all. So let's get to understand how we can consume right. Dwight Eisenhower, a former president of the United States, came up with a nice way of analyzing how to prioritize our tasks when we are limited by time. Now, Mr. Eisenhower wasn't an economist, he was just a president. So basically what he said was, spend your time on the things that are most important and most urgent. So we have a graph here. Of course, any good economist uses a graph. On the vertical axis, we have importance. So the higher up you go, the more important a task is. And on the horizontal axis, we have urgency. So the further up it is, the more urgent it is. So we begin with this bottom left quadrant. These are things that are not very urgent and not very important. Those are the things that when you get on the internet, you should spend the least of your time on. They're the things you should do never, right? We move here to the things that are quite urgent, but not always very important. For example, say you want to be among the first 100 viewers of a video on YouTube. That's urgent, but it's not too important. So, it's not a matter of life and death. We can also move to this quadrant next. Things that are quite important, but not too urgent. Maybe you have an artist that you like, and they have just released a new music album. So that's important to you, right? But it might not be too urgent. You don't have to listen to it today. So you can do that a bit later. The most important quadrant is things that are very important and very urgent. Things that you should spend the first priority on when you're on the internet. For example, an urgent email that you have to send for work or for school or something that you have to upload for your family. Those are the things that you should do first, and after that, you can move on to the less urgent and less important things. Another way in which to consume right is simply to divide the internet content in terms of, is it insightful or is it just passive? Insightful content is content that leaves you learning. You're learning something from it. It leaves you with new knowledge of the world around you or yourself. And it does not necessarily have to be theoretical content. It doesn't have to be a crazy manuscript or a research paper. It can even be a movie. But as long as you're learning something from that movie, from that digital content, spend time on that. Passive content is content that you're not learning anything from. It doesn't matter to you more. It doesn't matter to you, and you shouldn't spend too much of your time on content that is passive. That's how you consume, right? We've looked at the demand side, how you consume. Now we move on to the supply side, the other half of the market. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to challenge you tonight when thinking about supply. The right question to ask is not how many likes can I get, but how can I turn my likes into a livelihood? And I'll tell you why. You see, the supply side has been changed by the internet. The internet has revolutionized the market. Back in the day, when they did not have the internet, everything was physical. Whenever you wanted to interact with a supplier, you had to meet them in person. If you wanted to buy a new shoe, you had to go to the mall. If you wanted to watch a movie, you had to go to the cinema. Everything was physical. But with the internet, the market became virtual. Right from the convenience of your couch, you can order something and even have it delivered right to your doorstep. So that means that thanks to the internet, for the first time in history, it's much easier than before to become a supplier. And that's why I want you to think of the supply side in this way. How can I turn my likes into livelihood? Because basically, supplying has become so easy because you don't need capital. Back in the day, when you needed to interact physically, you needed to have a physical location. You needed to have a shop where you provide your goods or your services. That needed money, and people who are not very wealthy could not become suppliers. In fact, if you wanted to sell something, you needed to have it in the shop. Today, with the internet, you don't have to have the capital. You can simply start with a photo. For example, if you want to sell laptops, you can upload a photo and say, hey, I'm selling laptops and I do deliveries. And then when someone orders, you get the money, you look for the laptop, and then you send it to them. So you don't even need to have the capital in the first place. Location. Before the internet, you needed to interact with people physically in that location, so you needed to be there, right? Today, you can supply to anyone in the world right here from Mombasa. You can supply some masks to Wuhan if you want, right from your couch. Before the internet, trade could only take place when the sun was up, between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. But thanks to the internet, you can be supplying at 3 a.m. and your customers can be buying, and you can supply anything, not just goods, but even services. If you're really good at speaking languages, you can sell that service. If you're really good at doing research, you can sell that. So you can supply anything that you want. And finally, age. Before the internet, for you to have a physical premise, you needed to have a business license. That means you needed to be over 18. So if you are under 18, like most of the people in this room, you could not start a business. But today, the internet knows no age. The internet only knows value. So if you have a good idea, you can start working on it now. And by the time you get to 18, you're not starting from zero. So ladies and gentlemen, we've seen that the internet is growing a lot and is becoming a fundamental part of our everyday lives. And we've seen that we have all the knowledge and all the skills that it takes in order to start using the internet in a very efficient way and get it to work for us. So let's grow with it and let's grow through it. Anyone, anywhere can do it, and you can begin tonight. Next time you log into your phone, be conscious of, is it insightful? Is it urgent and important? Is it building my livelihood? And that way, in this coming new decade, you'll be using the internet in the best way possible. Thank you for your time.